Hey everybody, Eitanya here. Welcome to part 2 of my plushie maker series. Today I wanted to talk about materials. This could get really long, so I apologize in advance. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. Really the long and short of it is you can make a plushie out of just about anything. This is just kind of my experiences and pros and cons that I've found with certain materials and why I like to work with certain ones. But this isn't the 10 commandments of plushie making, so go out there, look at other plushie makers and see what kind of stuff they use and get some ideas that way too. I wanted to start out with felt. I think everybody has used this at one point or another. I know probably the plushie makers who are watching this are sitting there groaning going, oh no, don't use felt. But the good thing about it is it's cheap. You can find it just about anywhere. It's really easy to hand sew because the fibers are so loose. Of course, the con with that is that the fibers are loose and they're going to start to wear and come apart a little bit. Some people use this for hair. I personally don't like it for hair because if you make little spiky thin parts, it's gonna come apart. And you can see even just doing that, the fibers start to come off. But it is useful if you're gonna make pattern pieces too, other than just practicing, which it is good for that. If you're gonna make pattern pieces, I still use this for doing that. Just so I don't have to cut up my good fabric. And I use this for the angel wings that I've been doing on certain plushies like Cass. It holds its shape a little bit better when it's layered and glued like that. You can see one of my first little plushies, little Alistair here. He's made out of felt, and I think I've improved a little bit since I made this guy, but I still love him. But you can see where you paint it, where this stuff is so rough, the paint just doesn't get that nice smooth finish. But not bad for a first attempt, I think. I think I've improved since then. But my preferred material for bases is fleece. You can get this in 2 different finishes. It comes in an anti-pill finish, which is this, and it's all slightly fuzzy and furry looking. But this wears better because it's going to keep that finish. It's not going to get any worse. So I try to use this whenever possible. It also comes in smooth finish fleece, which looks like this, but on both sides. And after a while, that will start to wear. It just starts to pill up a little bit and get the little fuzzy balls all over it. It takes a while and it takes some abuse to get it to do that though, because my daughter's had one for like, well, almost 3 years now, and it's just now starting to show that kind of wear. So it just depends on where I can get the colors, which type has the color that I need. I still do use both and mix and match them. I pretty much use this for everything I can get away with because I'm so used to working with it at this point. I can make it do what I want it to do, and I know how it's going to act. I use this for hair as well because it's not going to fray or come apart. It might get some little fuzzies coming off the edges, but you can hit that with a lint roller when you cut it, and it'll take care of that. One thing about this is that it's stretchy. It has a 2-way stretch, so it's not stretchy this way, it's just stretchy this way. If you're not used to that, it can kind of muck with your patterns. So just keep it in mind when you're cutting stuff out, which direction that stretch is going. So, Plushie me. When I cut out the face, I make sure the stretch is going this way. That way, when I stuff it, it's just going to make her face rounder. It's not going to make her head actually taller. And when I do the body, I cut the stretch this way so that it makes the arms more round and makes the hands fuller rather than making her arms longer and screwing up all my clothing patterns. But if you keep that in mind, it's really easy to work with. And it's fairly cheap. Keep in mind, you don't need a whole lot. You don't need a whole yard. Obviously, you can get like 3 or 4 plushies out of a quarter of a yard, so you don't have to buy a whole lot of it. It's not the easiest thing in the world to paint because, like I showed you with the finish on there, I usually do 1 coat of paint just to kind of lay down the fibers, and then I do another coat of paint to smooth that out, and then I go in and I paint the details on the eye and stuff like that. But it is possible to get a pretty nice looking painted face on there, and I know some of you do embroidered faces, or I mean there's all kinds of different ways to do that if you don't want to paint it. That's really the biggest drawback for me. But knit materials, I have a lot of this laying around because this is what I make all my scarves out of, so most of my plushie clothes either get made out of fleece or out of some kind of knit. This is another material that's not going to fray. I try to use stuff that doesn't fray as much as possible. because that way you can have raw edges and it's not the end of the world. If you had to go in and seam everything, it would just be a pain in the butt. And if you end up with these huge seams on a little tiny plushie, it just looks weird. So, but this is really good. It's basically a t-shirt material, so keep that in mind. It does have the stretch to it, so it's not great for making the base of a plushie out of because it's thin. It's going to show all the little bumps in your stuffing. If you use that for a base, you need to back it with something a little thicker, like fleece. This is another knit that I like. This is a dancewear knit, and it's metallic. So I use this for armor. I made the base for King Alistair plushie out of this. And I layered this over a fleece so that it would give it some more body and wouldn't show all the bumps in the stuffing. But this is really, really useful. And if you're going to make armor out of it, you can just glue it over top of some fleece and cut it out that way. It's not going to fray, but since it's so thin, you gotta give it some body. Next up, leather stuff. I don't really use real leather because it's usually too thick to do cool stuff out of. This one is actually a printed suede cloth, but it has this really cool beat up leather looking texture to it, so I really love it, and it doesn't fray. And it's really been really good for straps and boots and stuff like that. This is actually pleather, which you can see here, and it has some stretch to it to be more forgiving on curves and things like that. If you're sewing pleather, keep in mind you have to change your stitching length. You have to do longer stitches so you're not just perforating the fabric and it doesn't rip as soon as you stuff it. So I generally like to use the suede cloth when I can. But you can see here I made her little boots out of pleather. It was fairly easy. I think I don't have one laying around here with suede cloth boots, but I have done that before. And it looks really nice. This stuff is hella pricey, but you can get away with very, very little. It's not going to take a whole lot. Work those coupons. And let's see. There we go. Quilting fabric. I like to use this for clothes and stuff when I need some kind of odd pattern that I don't want to sit there and draw out. If I'd had to draw all these little checkerboards, I probably would have lost it. But I ended up overdying this in red to get this check, and I use this for my Joker plushie. There's a little skirt on him that look like that. So the good thing about quilting fabric is it's not very expensive, and you can buy like quarters. So you don't have to buy a whole ton of it when you just need a little tiny piece. Which I do a lot of that anyway. Another random fabric I found useful is corduroy. This is really good for doing treads on the bottom of the shoe. If you just cut the shoe pattern out of this, it looks like there's a tread on the bottom of the foot. I've also used this for doing corrugated tubing. You can just roll it up and make a little roll out of this, and it looks like a tubing. It's still tedious, but it looks really neat. Fur. I am not the authority on fur because, as we all know, I don't make good animals, so this is the stuff that I've used. It's Ultra Cuddle. The bad thing with this is that it's really furry on both sides, so when you're sewing it, you can't really see where your stitches are, and if you mess it up, you pretty much have to start over because you can't take them out. But I use this for little Anders. You can see the little feathers. I used the fur on there, and then I just tipped it with a black marker to give it the right color. So it was good for that. I don't really recommend it for using it for anything more complicated than that, unless it's just all you can find. I'm sure there are better furs out there. I know people have had a lot of luck with ultra suede and suede cloth and stuff for the bases of plushies. I have not had good luck doing that. I'm just not used to working with it, but I know people like Threnody on DeviantArt. She's made some awesome little plushies out of those kinds of materials. I did ask her for some advice. She did say that she liked doe suede because it has a little bit of a stretch to it and it's a little more forgiving. But an upholstery suede is too thick to really do anything with, so you want the costume suede. You still have to be kind of careful with it because those can run and they're going to fray a little bit, so you just have to be more mindful of that. But they are a whole lot easier to paint, and they come in nicer skin tones. Fleece doesn't really come in a ton of skin tones. which is why everybody on my page looks kind of pale, as you can't really dye fleece. But do what you gotta do. Satin I have not had good luck with at all. I tried, I think some of you might remember me posting about my nightmares trying to make a little satin dress for a plushie, and it took me like 5 tries and then I gave up. But the satin unravels really, really easily, so when you're trimming your seam allowances down plushie sized, the satin just comes apart and then all your seams pop and chaos ensues. One good resource I've found for fabric when I need something slightly odd is the thrift store. I actually go and get clothes and cut them up if I can't find what I need at the fabric store. And you could find some really cool fabrics doing this. With, of course, stuff like jeans. The stuff that I use is the bottom of a pair of my jeans that I cut off when I made some shorts. So, you know, it's denim. Why mess with it? And pleather can be kind of hard to find sometimes, so on a couple of occasions I've actually gotten pleather pants and cut them up and use those. So never underestimate a trip to the thrift store or, you know, looking through your closet. I've cut up my own clothes too when I needed something specific. There's actually a shop on Etsy called Eco Lefties, and she makes these brilliant, adorable little plushies out of all recycled fabrics. And they're really cute. They've got so much personality, and I'll put a link to her shop. But yeah, like I said, you can make a plushie out of anything. So just try it, and like I always tell people, don't be afraid to mess up. You know, try it. If it doesn't work, now you know, you learned something. So just try something else. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I can think of right now. If anybody has any questions, just comment below. And next time I think we'll be talking about hair. We'll go into a little more detail about how I do my hair and how I attach it and all that good stuff. So in the meantime, happy holidays, everybody. Bye.